November 22nd, 1963 changed everything. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling was even worse. A Secret Service agent was there when Jackie broke down in private. He heard her private words about the real reason she kept wearing that suit covered in blood. It wasn't only to show America what they had done. There was another reason, something she never shared with anybody else. For 60 years, her bodyguard held onto that secret. Now he has told why Jackie really never got better. The facts about her last years will change everything you thought you knew. Jackie Kennedy was born on July 28, 1929, not in the place her parents had planned. They were supposed to have her in a Manhattan hospital, but a last-minute change during a summer stay in the Hamptons meant she came into the world at Southampton Hospital instead. Her father, John "Black Jack" Bouvier III, was already becoming a big name on Wall Street, while her mother, Janet Norton Lee, came from a strong banking family. That summer, the Bouviers had just bought a new house in Southampton, and Jackie's birth became a small news story. The hospital listed her name simply as Baby Girl Bouvier, and the family stayed there for 14 days. Even as a baby, her life was full of special treatment. But problems in her parents' marriage were already starting to appear. Her baptism happened at St. Ignatius Loyola Church in Manhattan, a place known for its beautiful design and fancy people who went there. It wasn't just a church event. It was like a big social party. That's where she was officially named Jacqueline, the first girl in the family with that name, picked to honor her father. That church would later be used for both her confirmation and her funeral. It became one of the few things that stayed the same in a life full of big changes and feelings of distance. Jackie started riding horses when she was just 3. Her mother got her into it early. Janet was a good rider herself with her own awards, and she thought it taught grace and self-control. By 5, Jackie was already doing well, winning a blue ribbon at the Devon Horse Show. She was in the under-9 group, and newspapers wrote about it. Her wins gave Janet more things to brag about. But for Jackie, horses meant something more. They helped her escape problems at home. Her father's drinking and gambling were causing fights, and Jackie held onto her pony, Buddy, to feel safe and in control. Horses stayed important to her all her life, not just for show, but as a safe place. In 1936, the family left the Hamptons and moved into a huge apartment on Park Avenue that covered 2 floors. It had been built by Jackie's grandfather, James T. Lee. On the outside, it seemed like a perfect home, but it wasn't completely decorated. Her father, even with his Wall Street job, was already having money problems. Jackie and her sister Lee would roller skate in the empty rooms. Jackie's smart side showed up early. She would give Lee small candies to keep their nanny busy so she could sneak into neighbors' apartments and play with their toys. That sneaky, smart way of doing things stayed with her. But under the fancy floors and lights, things were breaking down. Her father's money issues became news. His gambling debts and relationships with other women were in the papers. He was seen with show girls. He almost went broke. Jackie heard the yelling behind closed doors. It all ended in 1940 when her parents got divorced. She was just 11. She turned even more to her pony. She pulled away from her mother. She never stopped loving her father, but the hurt from that stayed. It affected how she saw men, love, and trust. Her parents had split up in 1936 when she was 7. The full divorce took 4 more years. The stock market crash of 1929 had hurt their money, and John's fun personality had turned into drinking, other women, and embarrassing stories in the news. Jackie felt pulled in 2 ways. She loved him a lot, but she also felt embarrassed. She and her sister had to live in 2 places, moving between fancy Manhattan and quiet Long Island. A news story about fashion. It felt like she had been there, touched the clothes, seen the colors, and spoken to the women wearing them. She had, and it showed. At a time when most women in the news office only wrote about weddings or parties, Jackie did something different. Her words were smart. Her ideas were strong, And all of a sudden, she wasn't just a girl taking pictures anymore. She was a writer with real opinions. Then in 1953, the crowning of the Queen from behind the scenes, her view of crowns under palace lights. People at home felt like they were there, but they ran it and kept asking her to do more stories. That same year, Jackie was in ditches in Korea, wearing a helmet, carrying a camera. She didn't send them to her newspaper. The Times Herald was old-fashioned. Her bosses wouldn't have used them, but she took the pictures anyway. She caught the faces of black men and women asking for equal rights. She hid the film, some she never showed anybody, but they existed. Proof that Jackie noticed things others missed. She knew which side she supported, even if she couldn't say it openly. At the same time, she was writing for her mother's charity pages without her name on them. She went from fancy embassy parties to typing late at night, handling due dates and party invites. She said no to marriage offers from men who saw her as pretty decoration. She wanted more. She wanted to be known for her work, not her looks. Smart, always surprising. She asked a young senator named John F. Kennedy what made him hopeful. They met more and things shifted. In May 1951, they had their first big talk at a dinner party put on by Charles Bartlett at 341 Q Street in Georgetown. As a political wife, she wrote articles for Women's Home Companion, even on her honeymoon. She reported on meetings. She kept writing. She lived two lives between 1953 and 1960. She wrote JFK's letters without credit, fixed his speeches, wrote about fashion for Vogue. In 1957, she did a story about the pillbox hat. It wasn't just about style, it helped define a time. By 1960, she was pregnant, Caroline in 1957, and John Jr. On November 25, 1960, the world saw those kids were part of the election. But Jackie protected their private life strongly. She knew what being famous could do. In 1961, she became First Lady and everything was different, but she took her newspaper skills with her. She hired Pamela Turnure as her press person, the first one. She controlled photos, limited who got in, placed stories where they helped most. By 1962, her Life magazine cover was the best-selling one that year. She had made fashion into a smart plan. The clothes that people complained about for costing $50,000, it was 80% made in America, and it helped American fashion sales grow by 15%. She showed Charles de Gaulle around the White House speaking perfect French. He called her the smartest American woman he had met. Reporters called it Camelot. She called it her work. She never stopped writing, never stopped guiding. Even the book she didn't finish, the one on European kings and queens, had talks from Monaco and Liechtenstein. When JFK asked her to marry him in 1953, she knew what she was losing, but she also knew what she was gaining. The woman the world saw in white gloves and pearls had once been in ditches in Korea. She had hidden civil rights photos from her bosses. She had worked hard for her name on stories, typed late at night, said no to men who didn't value her brain. When Jackie Kennedy entered the White House in January 1961, she didn't see a home full of American history. She saw faded walls, furniture that didn't match, and almost no signs of past presidents. It felt empty. She decided to fix it and quietly put together a fine arts group led by Henry Francis DuPont. Their plan was simple but huge. Bring back the heart of the White House. They looked through private homes, history groups, even sales abroad. In 1962, Jackie went herself to an auction at Sotheby's for a desk that belonged to Thomas Jefferson. It cost $25,000, a huge amount then, but to her it was worth every penny. She didn't stop. She asked rich people to give their old things for the country's history. Little by little, room by room, the White House turned into a museum that showed America's past. And then she let people see it. On Valentine's Day 1962, Jackie led a TV tour of the fixed-up White House. No ads, just her showing the country its important rooms. She spoke quietly, showing the Lincoln bed, the Madison dishes, the Jefferson desk she got. 56 million people watched, 1 out of every 3 Americans. Gifts of money came in, about $1 million, and the world noticed. That year, Jackie got a special award from the Emmys, the only first lady to get one. Lady Bird Johnson took it for her. Jackie had done what no one thought possible. She turned a government house into a treasure everyone shared, using TV not for votes, but for remembering. A few months before that TV show in November 1961, the East Room of the White House had already changed. Jackie had Pablo Casals, the famous cellist who hadn't played in the U.S. since Franco took power in Spain. He had been kept out for years. Jackie didn't mind. She asked him to come anyway. That night he played Mendelssohn, Schumann, and Couperin for 200 guests in a room full of political stress. She wanted art to be free, even if it upset important people. The next year, she asked Leonard Bernstein to write music for the National Cultural Center. She was building a lasting mark quietly, through music, through bravery. But behind the fancy life and charm, something terrible was happening. In August 1963, Jackie had a baby boy, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy. He came early at 34 weeks and weighed just 4 pounds, 10.5 ounces. He had trouble breathing, and back then there wasn't much help for babies lick. He lived only 3 days. Most people didn't know. President Kennedy had the TV taken out of Jackie's hospital room so she wouldn't see the news. While sad about losing her child, Jackie also quietly dealt with Addison's disease, a rare sickness that made her tired. Yet she kept going, fixing the White House, helping the cultural center, being sad privately, still appearing in public. That same year, Jackie did something few people knew. She personally fixed the White House guidebook, writing and changing parts about old items. She made sure the Lincoln part was right. The guidebook sold a lot. It brought more money for saving things and changed how the White House talked to people. Years later, she used that talent in her new job as a book editor in New York. But it began there, between her sad times, quietly making something that would last. Then came the worst day, November 22nd, 1963. Dallas. Jackie wore a pink suit like Chanel, raspberry color with navy edges and gold buttons. The hat went with it. Then the shots. One bullet broke the back of President Kennedy's head. Blood went all over Jackie's clothes. She didn't change. She got on Air Force One still like that. She stood next to LBJ as he became president, not taking off the stained suit. When asked, she said coldly, "I want them to see what they've done." The suit is kept sealed in a storage place, locked until the year 2103. It is the saddest clothing in American history. At Parkland Hospital, Jackie didn't let go. She held her husband's hand even after the doctors couldn't do more. She whispered, "I love you." Over and over, Secret Service agents Clint Hill and Roy Kellerman stayed near, keeping away cameras, reporters, even the hard truth. She stayed by the bed long after he was gone. She couldn't talk. All she wanted was her kids. The hurt didn't go away. Jackie later said she could still hear the shot in her dreams. The shot echoed forever, she said in private tapes. Doctors today say she had all the signs of bad trauma, no sleep, seeing it again, feeling nothing. Her family tried to help. Her mother kept her safe. But Jackie carried that hurt all her life, hidden in letters, seen in how she acted. Quiet, careful hurt. Just 3 days after the killing, she planned every part of the funeral. She wanted a horse with no rider. She wanted a flame that never goes out. On November 25, 1963, over 1 million people stood along the path. 3 million more watched on TV. She lit the eternal flame herself. The horse named Black Jack walked without a rider. A president was gone. A wife had made the story. His story didn't match the Warren Commission's idea of one bullet. His quiet time, it turns out, lasted as long as Jackie's. After the White House, Jackie tried to make a new life. In 1964, she left Washington and moved to New York. She said no to money for widows. She didn't want help. She wanted meaning. In 1975, she started working at Viking Press as an editor helper. Over 19 years, she helped make almost 100 books, stories of lives, history, art books. She even helped save Grand Central Station from being torn down. Later, she went to Doubleday. Her first big win there was a book by Michael Jackson that sold a lot. She became a teacher to writers, a protector of stories, but her own life stayed hard. In 1968, she married Aristotle Onassis on his private island. Bad photos of them came out in Hustler magazine. They were everywhere. People said Onassis shared them to hurt her. Jackie was very upset. Around that time, people learned she had a long, secret relationship with John Warnecke, the man who made JFK's grave. Their hidden love lasted almost 4 years. It stopped just before she married Onassis. In later years, she said she felt she had let down her husband's memory. By the 1980s, her editing work was at its best. At Doubleday, she did history books, special life stories, and even got rights from the Nabokov family in 1982. That deal brought respect. Jackie handled it all, editing meetings, finding new books, raising Caroline and John Jr., all while staying out of attention. And then in 2023, Paul Landis spoke again. He told the full story about that bullet. It wasn't just a piece. It was whole, and he had picked it up and moved it. His words caused big surprise for history experts and people who think there was more to it.